Dobar dan.
Dobar dan, gospođo Solić.
Hvala, gospođo Keti.
Kako ste?
Dobro sam, odlično. Iznenađena što govorite srpski.
Ne tako dobro govorim, pričam, ali ajde, idemo unutru.
Idemo, izvolite, dobrodošli, bolje vas našli. Hvala. Šta spaja diplomatiju, ragbi i čuvenu belgijsku čokoladu? Danas smo u ekskluzivnoj poseti Ambasadi Belgije, gde imamo privilegiju da razgovaramo sa izuzetnom ženom, ambasadorkom Keti Bugenhaut. Ona nije samo brilijantan diplomata sa karijerom koja obuhvata najvažnije svetske metropole poput Pariza, Njujorka i Šangaja, već je i jedna od najboljih ragbiskinja na svetu. Kroz razgovor ćemo saznati kako ona balansira između izazova u međunarodnim pregovorima i svoje ljubavi prema sportu i zdravom životu. Kao poseban segment, ambasadorka će nam pokazati i vežbe koje nisu nimalo lake, a ona ih praktikuje u svakodnevnom životu, što nam otvara jednu potpuno novu dimenziju diplomatije. Pričat ćemo o njenom povratku u Srbiji posle 26 godina i kako je bilo raditi ovde u post-dejtonskom periodu i kakva je razlika u tadašnjoj i današnjoj Srbiji. Takođe, bit će tu i jedno vrlo važno pitanje. Kako žene, kao sve prisutniji lideri u politici, donose odluke u poređenju sa muškarcima i kakvu ulogu belgijska čokolada može da igra u diplomatiji. I kako Belgijanci kažu, a ja ću probati to da izgovorim, qui mange un noix de cacao, plant un arbre du paix. Što znači, ko jede zrno kakaa, sadi drvo mira. Spremite se za razgovor koji će vas iznenaditi i nadahnuti. Od diplomatije do sporta. Sve je moguće. A bit će tu i naravno slatkih užitaka. Uživajte. Vaša ekscelencija, Keti Bugenhaut, hvala vam što ste nas danas ugostili u ovoj prelepoj kući. Srećni smo što danas razgovaramo sa vama.
Sa zadovoljstvom.
Volela bih da ovaj intervju danas vodimo na jedan potpuno drugačiji način. Na prvom mestu, rekli ste mi kada smo se dopisivali da ste dali krv, sreću, suze i znoj, odnosno tako mi kažemo, a kako kažu Englezi, blood, sweat and tears for this moment now. Moje pitanje je kako je jednoj ženi u politici danas, kako jedna žena u politici odlučuje u odnosu na muškarce?
First of all, I'm very happy to be here with you today, and I look forward to our talk and to much more than the talk. Women in politics, I do not consider myself really as a woman in politics. I'm a woman in the diplomatic service, but obviously our job is about bilateral relations with countries, other countries. It is about negotiations. It is about maintaining cultural relations, promoting trade and investment. But it's only the minister and the government for whom and for which you work, which is actually the political part of it. But we do get our instructions from that political layer that is above us. So when you ask about, I would say that your question would be more, how is it to be a woman in a career which was previously dominated by men? That I would rephrase it that way. And if I look upon that, the fact that we still have to ask this question means that there's no equality yet, because if there were to be equality, the question would not be asked. It would just be a self-evidence. You have women in business, you have men in business. You have women in politics, you have men in politics. You have women in top sports, you have men in top sports. So I do not see, for me, I do not see any difference, but I know there is, and that you are confronted as a female diplomat, a female politician, with sometimes a different attitude from male colleagues. And that is something where I do not see a lot of improvement. The attitude stays the same. it has, the access to the profession, to whatever profession which is dominated by men, the access has become much larger. There is much less discrimination on the work floor, but still, you will see in a talk on a serious subject that men would always first go and and stand in a group, and then, women would also stand in a group. And if you look at pictures of politicians, you would see that if you really look for it, you would see that women, they talk with each other, and then men talk with each other too. What we need to have, the result that we need to achieve is that there is no difference whatsoever, that everybody, that everybody is considered to be 100% equal. I think we made a long way already, but we're not there yet. And in some countries, there's even a reverse path. There's even a reverse. You can see that more women return to, the traditional household pattern and are not ambitious anymore to really go for the top. And it is not easy to go for the top. But the same challenge is there for men. To reach the top is not easy for men either. But for women, there are a couple of more hurdles, I would say.
But why is like that? On the way here, along the way, when I came for this interview, the taxi driver, when he saw me with a big bowl for yoga and everything, he told me like, but on this way, I think that you women are taking too much on yourself nowadays. So it's like, that he had a little bit of pity, and I was so happy that I'm coming here to talk with such a woman, bringing my bowl with myself and everything. So why is that happening, and what we can do? We are not going to fight with men. We're not going to go against that. But what is the best way to explain to them that we are equal, or maybe even better in some ways, making decisions and taking decisions maybe?
You mentioned your taxi driver who is a man.
Yes.
Have you counted already how many women taxi drivers there are in the city? So also when a family goes somewhere, what will be the traditional setup in the car? The man will be driving, the woman will be sitting on the passenger seat, and the children will sit in the back. And sometimes even, the mother is sitting in the back when the child is still very small. Those are patterns. And it is exactly that point that I would like to make. Those patterns are basically not good to achieve full gender equality. As long as we do not get out of that pattern, there is something missing. And the element that is missing has become much smaller. What we are missing as women is much smaller, but it is still there. And if you look at for example, childcare, cooking at home, doing the laundry at home. So we should start from, if we really want this equality and this absolute, how shall I say, not talking about being man or woman anymore, we should start from, the moment that children are born. And we should not offer a toy such as a tractor to the boy and offer, whatever, a doll to the girl. No, you should just say, okay, you can get a tractor, or you can get a doll, what would you choose? And then everybody can choose, every child can choose what he or she wants. But it is from young, and we should not ask the girl in the household to clean up the coffee cups after breakfast. No, we can ask the boy to do that. And if you really mix and in some countries have done that, like Sweden is a good example, and Finland as well, where they have from infancy onwards, they have introduced a system that whether the child is a boy or a girl, it doesn't really matter, they all have the same tasks. And I think that is the real solution, because otherwise you will keep those patterns. And we as a generation, I come from a generation where it was already accepted that we worked, but my mother came from a generation where women were not even supposed to work. So we have to catch up, we have to catch up, and we're still in the process of catching up.
Sada bih voljela da se vratimo u 1993. godinu kada otvarate vrata diplomatije. Pre toga ste se bavili advokaturom. Ulazite u jedan potpuno drugačiji svet. Nedugo zatim, to jest posle toga, 96. godine, vi dolazite ovde kod nas u Srbiju. Voljela bih da vas vratim u to vreme i da mi kažete koje vas prve uspomene vezuju za to vreme i kakva je vaša perspektiva sada u odnosu na to vreme.
Well, 1993 was, I was a very young diplomat. I had been recruited on the 1st of January, and in June I left for a European Union mission where I was the legal advisor, and that was in the middle of the war. It was a very interesting, but also sometimes painful experience. Painful because there was so much pain in the people. The home base back then was Zagreb, but the European Union monitoring mission was deployed all over the former Yugoslav territory, and it was the unforgettable thing about that was the fear of so many young men to have to go to the front and fight. And that left a very deep impression on me, because this was something that I had never witnessed in my life. And the risk that they would be injured or killed or maimed, lose a leg, was very strong in those days. Then, obviously, the situation became different when I was here, when I was then in Belgrade in 1996, because I reopened the embassy, which I'm now ambassador at. And there was this, in December 1999, I arrived, I think, early January, and there was this kind of hope in the people, this kind of, okay, we have a new life. And what I remember was that there were very few airline companies serving the airport of Belgrade. And my husband came to visit me, and the airline company lost his luggage. And so we had to find things that he could wear. So we had to find, socks, underwear, shirts, and there was still, hardly anything to get. So finally, because we had a dinner, we were invited to a dinner, my husband had to lend clothes from somebody else, and we wanted to play tennis together, and he couldn't find tennis shoes, so we found these little, the little shoes that you use for gymnastics, those light shoes, and that was an experience in itself, because we come from a country where we had not seen the same duress. We had never lived in such circumstances. And then we realized how privileged we actually were, because there was an abundance of everything in our own countries, and here the country was just starting up and coming out of this very difficult periods of sanctions. But I must say there was no, it was a very nice time. For example, I became a member of a tennis club over here back then, and I played at Partizan. And for example, we had little trips. So I went to Lake Palić to play in the club of Monika Seles, and I was also a member of Partizan Rugby Club. And when I went to Belgium, during my stay here, I brought them rugby balls and equipment for the training sessions. So I have nothing from that period. I have nothing but fond memories. Also, the group of diplomats which was here was a very, very, very good group. We were all young, early 30s, and we really had this drive, to, kind of rebuild together with the Serbian and Montenegrin people, because it was still Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, to rebuild, to kind of, deploy everything, all the means we had to be partners again on the global scene. And I think we managed that quite fine, actually.
Šta se I koliko se promenilo?
Let me start with what has stayed. What has stayed is the friendliness of the people, the smiles you always get when I cycle on the pavement, and I have to stop, and then somebody will make the way for me, and I say thank you. They always say something back, there is volite or nema ništa, So there's always this friendly humor, friendly mindsets, then, of course, what also hasn't changed is the food, because even in 1996 we found veal meat from the farmers. There were small farmers' corners, not a real farmers' market yet, but where you could. It was the season of the raspberries, and you had raspberries everywhere. So the love for good food was there as well. What has changed now? It's obviously, this is a long time ago, and you cannot. It's maybe sometimes better not to look too much in the past and to live for the future. So what has changed? Well, you have again, proven to be a very resilient economy, and you have an enormous amount of foreign direct investment. That was not the case back then. There's also a lot of the language knowledge of the people has dramatically increased compared to 1996. People speak sometimes here 3 or 4 languages. What else do I notice as changes? Well, yes, obviously that there is a lot more traffic than back then. Back then there was, everything was much more quiet, and the city was much smaller. I remember, going over the Sava, Novi Beograd ended after 2 kilometers. It was finished. There were no more buildings. I think the Sava Center was already there. And then behind the Sava Center, you had some buildings, and then Novi Beograd was finished. And now when I arrived here in August 2022, I drove with my car, and coming over the border, I saw, cities that were not, the city started, from far out of Belgrade, from Tesla Airport, basically, the city starts already. And that is a very, very big difference.
Mislim da ste se na neki način zaljubili u Beograd I Srbiju, možda ne na prvi pogled, na drugi pogled sigurno, I da je to možda I neka slična ljubav kao što ste imali prema ragbiju, s tim što je to bila ljubav na prvi pogled.
Well, I would, these days, as my body would not be able to play rugby in a competitive way anymore, but these days I'm still very active on the sports scene, although I did switch teams, but that was because of the facilities. So I'm now a member of Red Star. So I play tennis at Crvena Zvezda, at the tennis club at Crvena Zvezda, and I must say, again, I have been received with open arms, and again with a lot of warmth and friendliness. I have Serbian tennis partners, of course, which I always find the most enriching experience. That is that through a hobby, and everybody has different choice of hobbies. My hobby and only hobby, I must say, is sports. Is that you learn to know people in another way. You learn to know people in the way that you can talk about any subject that you like, because you're out of the work sphere. In the work sphere, you have a limited number of subjects, but out of the work sphere, you can talk about anything you like. and you get you get a very good feeling of how people see life, which is different in every culture, and so also different in every country where I have posted. So it's the best school, I would say, is that through any hobby that one would choose as a foreign diplomat, you would learn what is important for the people of the country.
Da li biste možda voleli jedan meč da odigrate i sa Novakom Đoković?
Not yet.
Dakle, bili ste i u Šangaju, bili ste i u Njujorku i to je velika škola gde ste vi naučili mnogo i o tome kako funkcioniše istok, ali i o tome kako funkcioniše zapad. Kako to svoje znanje danas primenjujete u svetu diplomatije?
It is, the differences obviously between the People's Republic of China and the United States of America are there in terms of culture, background, political system, economic system. And that is also what is basically the richness of the diplomatic career as such, that you live in different countries with different, let's say, organizational structures inside the country. From the outset, and that is my personal view, there is not one country better than another. We have to look inside the country and find, what is the, let's say, the values that you can work upon, and the let's say, cooperation that you can develop. This is basically the core mandate of every diplomat. And when you look at what the core mandate then is for a diplomat in the United States, which is one of the largest investors in my country since the 1950s at the United States. We have a lot of American foreign direct investment in Belgium. We have such close relations. We will be forever indebted to the United States for helping us in the Second and the First World War, both World Wars. So there is this already very, very old bond that exists between our two countries, and you take the building blocks of that bond, and then you can continue to develop them further. Then, China, we developed bonds also already a long time ago, already since China decided to open up. We were present, with 2 diplomatic missions in China. We have a very, very good relations, and also one of the stepping stones there was the excavation of the terracotta warriors in Xi'an, because when the terracotta warriors were excavated, there was the risk that the cement with which they were made would disintegrate by being exposed to oxygen. And it was a Belgian doctor, his name is Paul Janssen, who developed a product that with which you could cover all these statues, and which would prevent that they would become weak and basically crumble by the exposure to CO2. And Paul Janssen is the founder also of a pharmaceutical company in Belgium, Janssen Pharmaceutica. So, and when you go to Xi'an and you go to visit the terracotta warriors, you will see that there is one big room, a whole room, where the process that Paul Janssen applied to the warriors, to these terracotta statues, is explained. And that is obviously a very big honor for my country. And that's also, again, one of the building blocks on which you can develop cultural relations, economic relations, and political relations with the country. I would say that this reasoning that I have just demonstrated through an example with the United States of America and with the People's Republic of China, that this is basically how I see my job with every country where I am posted, because the core of our message is that we are members of the United Nations. You know, we uphold values. We uphold values together, and that is, let's say, the big, let's say, the big stepping stone from which all the rest can develop.
Kako biste onda ocenili trenutne odnose između Srbije i Belgije? Koji su naši najveći uspesi, a koji nam izazovi ostaju?
Well, I think that we have very good relations. I said this many times before. I cannot, I'm thinking now out loud, where are the difficult issues? Very difficult to see one out of my head. Let me maybe turn first to what I found during my tenure here as the best moments of the past almost 3 years is obviously that we have had a long overdue visit of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Belgium in the run-up to the European Union presidency in November last year. That was very, very productive. We also had bilateral political consultations where we discussed and exchanged ideas with the Serbian Ministry of Foreign Affairs on regional and international issues of common interest. And then, of course, the presidency was you know, a very intense period, but also very interesting period to be able to see how Serbia is giving doing so much effort to move forward on the European Union accession track. So that was also a very productive time for us. One of my fondest memories, obviously, is my visit to the Čuprija Music School, where I saw all these children with this gigantic gift of music, of classical music, and together with a Serbian Swiss citizen, Mrs. Maja Leroux Obradović, we organized a concert together with my Spanish colleague, because Spain had the EU presidency before Belgium, with a Belgian soloist, a piano soloist. Her name is Noor Ayadi. And we had this concert at Kolarac, which was completely sold out, and which was one of my, you know, one of the things that I organized with my team, which still make me, you know, most proud that I did that. Yes. I would just, if I may, there's also been an enormous increase in the economic interest in Serbia. By the end of November, I will have the 3rd economic mission from Belgium in a time span of 6 months. So it's going very fast now. So that's very good. So we have had a delegation here in September. We had a delegation last week, which was also, you know, a very successful and productive visit for them. And by the end of November, we would have a 3rd delegation coming over to Serbia to see what the investment and trade opportunities are. And this is, I think there's also been a bit of a more quiet period. You know, we have had COVID. 2022, we had the start of the Russian aggression in Ukraine, and companies got a little bit apprehensive, you know, not only in Europe, but I think globally, because we did not know what would happen. You know, there was a level of uncertainty, and uncertainty is never good for business. And then, you know, now 23 we see increased interest 24, and now we're finally on a, on a track upwards, and I hope the track upwards will remain.
Kakav stav ima Belgija, recimo, u slaganju Srbije sa spoljnom politikom i donošenjem odluka Evropske unije?
Thank you very much. It's only, I would say, the two elements you mentioned, the common and foreign security policy alignment and the rule of law, is just are two, I would say, elements of a much, much, much bigger picture, obviously. Any EU accession process is a phenomenal undertaking in terms of width, depth, knowledge, and Serbia has a very good administration, very competent people, a very active Minister of European Integration with Mrs. Tanja Mišević. So there is now, it's an absolute priority, and that has been confirmed by the European Council already a year ago. The Western Balkan countries' future is in the EU. So what does it mean? That this whole process of adaptation to the European Union values legislation is a process that is basically continuous. And I would not single out specifically the common foreign security policy. It's not an end in itself, but it is part, the common foreign and security policy alignment is part of our values, or demonstrating that we share the same values, that Serbia shares our values as well, and that also Serbia realizes that by entering the European Union in a couple of years from now, that we are together. This is, the European Union in itself is a construction where when you join, it's not a club, oh, we like this, but we don't like this, and we like this. No, it is
like a family.
It's like a family, and it's one. We would not have any economic weight, because the European Union, all the 27 countries together have a very large economic weight in the world. You cannot just say, we want only that or that or that. You have to go in completely. And in order to go in completely, you have to reply to certain standards. And for rule of law is very abstract. I would say there are elements of which are part of the rule of law, where Serbia is in a process to reform. And this reform process is also not an easy process. You need a lot of, how shall I say, you need a lot of people that can see, oh, we have to adapt this. There's a lot of analysis involved. It's very technical. It's not something, everybody's always talking about rule of law, but it's very technical to adapt all the laws. And some of the laws, there have been 2 new media laws, there has been legislation for the judiciary, but then the laws need to be implemented, which requires, again, a lot of effort, a lot of manpower. And so this ongoing process will obviously be helped by the growth plan. This is the growth plan which provides additional funding in order to accelerate even the gradual integration into the European Union of the Western Balkan countries. And Serbia has presented the reform agenda. The reform agenda is accepted. It goes together with an enormous amount or a substantial amount of money flows. It's 1.5 billion euros, so that's quite a substantial amount over a time span of 4 years. And so now this is the first phase, the pre-financing phase for new projects with a detailed agenda, which Serbia, what Serbia proposed is a very, very, very substantial piece of work. So it is coming back to the point I made when I started the explanation, we are on this, CFSP and rule of law are just two parts. I think for me, and I think that the Serbian government might share my view, what is very important is that there is, that is the single market. To be able to benefit from the single market is a very important element, because at this moment, the Western Balkan countries, if you look at GDP per head of the population, is still, let's say, half, even sometimes not more than 30% of the average, GDP per person in the European Union countries. So that means that also prosperity, living standards will go up, steeply if Serbia continues on this EU accession path. And this is not an empty promise. You can look at the data for Croatia, Romania, Bulgaria, and you will see that also their standard of living rose very, very steeply when they joined the EU. It is a positive story. There is a lot of traction and movement at the moment, and not only in Serbia, also in other countries in the Western Balkan. Albania just had its second intergovernmental conference I believe it was on Monday. Montenegro had two intergovernmental conferences, is now preparing to close chapters in the month of December. So there is this positive drive, and we are, supporting the countries to continue this drive. If I may just add one more point, what I miss personally is the communication to the people. It is a very difficult project to communicate, because EU, what is this? This is like kind of an animal, or is it a kind of thing? But if we were able to tell the people, listen, we are doing these difficult things because we want, in a couple of years from now, to belong to this club with the same values and with a higher standard of living, more prosperity, free possibilities to go and study in any of the European Union other countries, possibility to go and work, no transaction fees anymore when you pay, free roaming with your mobile phone. If we were to explain this better, but we don't seem to get, we tried already. Since my arrival, we had campaigns, EU za tebe, bolje smo zajedno. We had all the types of campaigns, but when I speak to my friends, my Serbian friends, they say, oh, this is never going to happen. And then I say, yes, it is going, of course it is going to happen. But we all have to work together to achieve this.
Srbija pokušava da se okrene vetru i suncu i da zaboravi na fosilna goriva. I trudi se, i zaista izgleda da će se to jednog dana i desiti. Evropska unija izuzetno podržava zelenu tranziciju. Gde je tu Belgija i na koji način ona pomaže Srbiji na tom putu?
This is one of my pet subjects, the green transition, but especially the part green mobility. Green mobility is for me the most important part, although I do realize that as a professional, I have to say that the green transition is first and foremost green energy and the supply of renewables. There is not only solar and wind. Serbia is in the very happy situation that you also have hydropower. And at Đerdap, is production of hydropower, which, for example, a country like mine does not have. So in this change to getting rid of fossil fuels and have renewable energy. Serbia has already taken an impressive number of steps, and there's one Belgian company which is also a founder of the Renewable Energy Association of Serbia, of RES, and we have here already 3 wind farms. Alibunar, Malibunar, and now expansion into Pančevo. So we are big here on the market in wind energy. It's the company is called Elisio Wind, and I know that also colleagues of mine, when we speak to each other, that a lot of countries are present here on the market to make together this green transition happen and help also Serbia. I know, for example, that Norway is helping the Serbian, I think it's Ministry of Energy with a project. There's a lot of investment from our side. This being said, this green transition is also in my country a challenge. It's not easy to make this green transition because it goes wider than just energy. It goes wider than just mobility. It also, for example, concerns waste disposal, sewage water. It contains a lot of elements. This green transition can only be brought about if we also give sufficient funding and financing to those elements in our economy that we have to kind of rethink and redo. Buildings is a very good example. I spoke at a seminar here on green buildings, which is also one of the business events that Belgium organized here. In Belgium, we now have this line that when a building is more than 40 years, you have to completely renovate it. That means that we're talking there about heavy investments. Can you imagine if you have to renovate, let's say, in the country, 100 schools, and you have to start taking the roofs off, insulate the roofs, put new windows everywhere, insulate the walls, renew the whole heating system. These are investments which take an enormous amount of capital out of the government budget. And so the green transition, you know, we have when we decided on the package, the deadlines that were put are actually, you know, we're talking about, you know, 2030, 2050. The car use, for example, and now I'm coming to the mobility. We have seen a trend in my country that everybody, especially initiated during COVID times, and that people started to use the bicycle, yes, and continue to use the bicycle. But now, 2024, you already see, you know, a bit of a, you know, return to the car instead of going to the office by bicycle.
Why is like that?
I do not know. I cannot explain that. I would think, you know, that is, maybe it is because we had a very bad spring, you know, with nothing but rain. We had a very bad summer in Belgium, nothing but rain. Maybe it is because of the weather. I do not know. But there's no such thing as a real cyclist. I'm also a real cyclist. I will show you my collection of bicycles later on. As a real cyclist, I have to say there's no such thing as bad weather. There's only such a thing as bad clothing. So for me, we have to make that green transition because it concerns climate change. We now have the extra push because of the fact that we have been in the past very dependent on fossil fuels from a country with which we do not see eye to eye at the moment. And so this dependency had to be reduced drastically, very quickly. This was painful, not only for you know, European Union countries, but also for your country. It is painful to try to get rid of oil and gas. But we have to do that transition for the future of our well-being. because this is much wider. The green transition is not just something that we say, and oh, it's not a problem if it doesn't happen. There is already a water shortage, you know that. There are, farmers in Italy, Spain, who cannot, in Greece, who do not have their crops anymore because of a shortage of water.
So how happy we are in Serbia that we do have water, that we can even drink water from tap water.
We can do that too, but let me tell you, have you looked at and now I'm back as a lawyer to the statistics, have you read about the breast cancer statistics in your country? Which is also, pollution also causes cancer. So, pollution is because we emit fossil fuels. There is an emission, and we have to get that emission down. The bad state that our, let's say, environment is in. I say, yes, it begins with yourself. You go to the market, you take a linen bag, you don't take the plastic bags, etc., etc., etc.
Keti, are there some your favorite words in Serbian or sentences, or I mean, a lot of years you spent here in Serbia, so for sure you do have some sentences or words that it's like typical Serbian.
I have to think on which word, because there are two words, or let's say two things. I have a tennis partner. Her name is Biljana. She's a phenomenal lady. I really like her a lot. She always puts me in my bestest of best moods. And when we're on court and something doesn't work, she says, bre. And I said, what are you saying? Because, she knows that I speak some Serbian, mala, ali. And she said, well, I cannot translate it. And I said, but what does it mean? Well, it means like, come on, man. And I said, come on, man, but that's 3 words. How can you reduce that into one word, bre? And she said, well, it is like that. So I tried to look it up, no clue, on a translation for this word. And so this is something that then kind of creeps into my head. The other thing is, in the beginning, and it's because I made so many mistakes in the beginning, because when at the embassy, I decided to celebrate each birthday of a member of staff. Oh, and then we have chocolate cake, or we have apple cake, or we have pancakes, or we have waffles. And so in Russian, a birthday is, because I also used to speak Russian fluently, is dень рождения. Mm-hmm. And then here, I was thinking it must be something similar, so dень is done. But actually here, the je is in a different spot. Mm-hmm. It's roždandan. Roždandan, and not рождение. And you see, I make the mistake again. And the je in a different spot, is so confusing for me. And, these are, and these are the things I will remember even if I leave Serbia.
Srećan rođendan svima koji slave, a sada je vreme za zdrav način života.
Maybe before, because many people are sitting in offices the whole day.
Okay.
Yes, and so it is important that also when you have an office job, that you stand up regularly. We sit at the office and our jaws are always in a tense position. So it's sometimes good to kind of relax, put your arms up, and just have a little stretch and relax your jaws, and then, you bring them down slowly, and you relax your body completely. And then you say, okay, I've been sitting the whole day and I don't want to have, when I'm wearing trousers, it still has to look good, so you can pull up a leg, stand a little bit, pull up a leg, and keep on standing and thinking about the shopping list for food in the evening, what you're going to do, whether it's going to be nice weather the next day, yes or no, whether you have any plans for the weekend. And then you turn your leg outwards, yeah, and you think, okay, no, I'm going to make spaghetti tonight. Yeah. And then you think, oh, my left leg starts to hurt a little bit. Okay, that means that there's tension on the leg, so I'm training my muscles. And then you say, okay, I'm going to relax. And I'm going to sit a little bit. But you don't sit, you just sit. And this is a very good exercise. I know that many Serbian people nowadays, they go skiing. And this is a very good exercise before, and this is the time of the year, before the ski season starts. Because skiing, you do this with your upper legs. And if you see professional skiers, then you will see that they always have very, very, strong upper legs, because the body in the skiing position is basically also being a bit bent forward, yeah, and with your knees bent as well.
Oh, yeah.
And
You're the winner. Okay, the next exercise.
And then the next exercise then that I do, but then the jacket goes out, obviously,
Okay.
That's a little plank, not too much, just, very easy, just a little plank like this.
Just a little plank, like 5 minutes, 10,
Oh,
20
no,
minutes?
maybe not more than 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh, that's a lot.
So, and then I stand like this, and sometimes, when I haven't been training for a while, my muscles here start to move a little bit, which is very uncomfortable, but you have to, set through, and then but it's easier actually then when at a certain moment you turn, So, and then it's, then you can look up to the ceiling, which is also very relaxing, At the end, I always do some push-ups, like this.
Okay.
I only do 10.
Only 10.
Only 10. And then I'm fed up with it. Then I think now it's enough for the day. I do. So, and then, yeah. And then you feel a completely different person. It is, the building dates back to the 1880s already. And it became property of Belgium in the 1940s. So we're obviously very, very proud to be in such a beautiful location in the city, but also to have all these ancient features in the house. So this is the official residence. That means that we host all the foreign guests here in this part of the building. And we have this beautiful vitrage representing a scene from the Middle Ages with lights behind it. And it's also, it's in complete lead and a glass structure. So it's very beautifully made, as it is also in, not a straight shape, but in a kind of a bit oval shape. The floors are still the original floors, so they have been very well kept. We also have the habit in every residence of the Kingdom of Belgium to have photographs of the King and Queen. But these are photographs which were offered to me by the then Crown Prince Philip of Belgium, and here Her Majesty Queen Mathilde and His Majesty King Philip. People here in Serbia, they always open their doors, they always invite you to eat, to drink, to try things together. So this is a beautiful country to be posted. I think that should not be omitted in what I'm saying, because also the both at the political and at the administrative level, we are always very well received. And also when we have delegations from Belgium coming over, those delegations are also always very warmly welcomed. I must apologize for showing you this, but this is indeed the library. It's a very nice place if you want to have one-on-one talks in private, because the doors, all the doors can be closed. But I use it actually as a bit of a storage for the bicycles that we use. As you already know, I do a lot of sports, so we have mountain bikes, we have city bikes, and this is a road bike, for fast speed races. And this bicycle is has a little story. It's also deep in my heart because it was offered to me by the Belgian business community in China when I was posted in Shanghai. In China, the business community regularly needed my help to go and speak to the authorities, introduce new products, for example, go and visit factories. For example, I opened the factory of the largest brewer in the world, which is Belgian. AB InBev is a Belgian company headquartered in Leuven. And so in that framework, we had a gala evening, and at that gala event, I was wearing a long dress, as is normal for a gala, and they offered me a present. The design is from a French gentleman who lives in China, and they gave me the present. They called me on stage. In my long dress, and they gave me the present, and I was invited to do, there was a podium, and I was invited to do a tour on the podium with my long dress, high heels, and I got on the bicycle and I fell in love with it immediately, especially because here, this is a little bag and you can put your keys, your wallet, everything can go in the little bag. You can take off the little bag and you can take it with you.
Is it a unique one?
It's a unique one.
Just for you? Okay,
yes.
You can show us.
Yes, like how I ride the bicycle?
Okay.
Yes, in the library.
Well, I cannot,
I cannot ride, I cannot ride it here. There is no turn to make. But you see, it's a perfect size, and it has a lot of technology inside because it actually has gears. But you don't see the gears anywhere. I will walk you out.
So please be my partner
yes.
on the walk out.
It was a delightful time.
Well, Keti, thank you so much. I can say in Serbian, Katarina,
Yes, I know. Ja razumijem, Katarina.
It was really, really nice. If this is European Union, then I'm going.
Well, you will be in soon, I hope. That's what we want. So it was so nice.
Thank you. 3 times. Okay, this was
very,
Serbian Belgian
nice.
way.
Yes. I wish you all the best.
Yes.
And we will stay in touch, I hope.
Yes, see you for the practice and for the bike ride.
And for the bike ride.
Okay.
That's our next plan.
Deal.
Thank you.
Bye, Keti.
Bye.
Razgovarali smo o njenom povratku u Srbiju nakon 26 godina, o promenama koje je primetila u našoj zemlji, ali i o važnoj ulozi žena u modernoj politici. Kako to žene donose odluke i na koji način njihov pristup menja dinamiku svetskih odnosa. I naravno, ta belgijska čokolada. Saznali smo kako ovaj simbol užitka može da postane diplomatsko sredstvo koje zbližava ljude i pomaže u postizanju kompromisa. I još jedna belgijska izreka za kraj. Le bonheur est dans la partage, što znači sreća je u deljenju. Nadamo se da ste uživali u ovom razgovoru punom energije, inspiracije i poneke slatke tajne. Do sledeće emisije, hvala vam što nas pratite, budite sa nama i dalje, jer tek nas čekaju zanimljive priče i sagovornici. I još koliko danas. Uzmite tu čokoladu i podelite je sa nekim kao što izreka kaže, da budemo Belgijanci makar na jedan dan.